Joining us now, fresh off of a massive win, head coach of the undefeated Texas Tech Red Raiders. First team, all just phenomenal human being, is Coach Joey McGuire. Coach, I appreciate you making time, man. This is awesome.
Man, you already know anything for you, brother. Like I said earlier, man, I'm proud of you, and I'm just glad that I get the opportunity to be on here because you're crushing it. You guys are doing a great job, and it's fun to follow.
Well, I appreciate that a lot. I've told the story a couple times, but I got to have a cup of coffee at Baylor with you, and I'm like a graduate transfer walk-on. So, like, one, not recruited, right? Second of all, I'm only there for, like, again, cup of coffee, 15 minutes. And if I'm on the team for longer, like, I'm not a guy you can develop or anything. But, I mean, it's cool to see you on the sideline now, but you at Baylor made everyone feel like they were the #1 recruiter on the board, 5-star guys. So it's been very cool to see that translate over at Texas Tech. And it seems like it's a thing within your team as well. Like the culture and the guys that play for you, like, it feels very evident watching your team play. There's a tight locker room there.
Yeah, I just believe, man, you made the choice to come to Baylor. You chose that, and that means a lot to me. Like when guys choose to come to Texas Tech, a lot of people right now talk about how much money we spent. Well, guess what? Those guys that chose to be at Texas Tech, they could have had that same money somewhere else, or maybe even more in some cases, but they chose to be at Texas Tech. That means a lot to me because not only they choose Texas Tech, they chose me. And so I want to make sure they feel that for me too, that how much I appreciate that. And man, you know me, man, I'm all about the players. And so I think it's very important that locker room is healthy and happy.
Well, I got to ask this. It's the bye week now, and I'm doing some digging around before we get in this conversation, just asking, like, hey, any inside baseball with Coach? And I got told multiple times, hey, ask him about the Friday routine. So, one, what is the Friday routine? And then two, is it still in play during a bye week?
It's not in play because I'm going to be on the road. But the Friday routine, I think of what you're talking about. As soon as we eat at 6, we go to a movie, we have a team meeting with a hype video, and then we have our snack. And then that's whenever there's about 5 of us that go back to my room, and man, we'll have a couple TVs on if there's a good college game on. But we follow. I'm a high school geek, man. I'm a football geek, and so we follow all the scores of all the high schools. And so I'm literally sitting there, and as soon as the score comes in, it's one of my buddies. I'm texting them, "Hey, great game, great win," stuff like that. And so like our Friday routine, whether we were playing, a 10 o'clock kickoff like we were in Utah, we're still getting all the scores from everything that's going on in Texas with the high school. So we stick with it. Now this Friday we'll be on the road, so we won't be doing it as much.
That's a lot of scores, though. How many games are we tracking? Like, you say all the games, that's like 20, 30 scores, more than that. Like, how many games are we tracking?
Yeah, well, I'm tracking anybody that's committed to us or we're recruiting, I'm tracking them. And then, I've got a bunch of, I was a high school coach for 23 years in the state of Texas. So I got a bunch of guys that I still, Lee Wigington at Allen, he's one of my dudes. And so I'm tracking Allen. So I bet there's probably 50 something scores that are games that we're tracking, if not more.
It's a lot of texts. I mean, the thumb's got to be sore after a game, after a Friday night with Coach McGuire. But you mentioned before, speaking to just like how much you care about the players and the guys on your team, and you mentioned the transfer portal, the way that you all have used that, whether it be the portal or recruiting at the high school level. Talk to me about the personal recruiting you do when it comes to recruiting the human being. Because, again, going back to culture, the people that make it up seem to be top-notch as well. What's the process there for you evaluating the human part of this?
Yeah, we hit some home runs, and it was just, really doing our homework. Like Howard Sampson played for Mac Brown. Mac Brown's one of my favorite people and a really good friend of mine. And so I called Mac, and then I FaceTime Mac with Howard Sampson, and Mac helped me get Howard Sampson. Gus Malzahn is a great friend of mine. Lee Hunter would have never left if Gus was still at UCF. And so I was able to call Gus and say, hey, man, tell me about this kid. So we try to do as much homework. It's the same way with the high school, especially in the state of Texas. I mean, there's not a high school coach that I can't pick up the phone and call and say, hey, look, man, you got to give me the ins and outs of this kid, because if we're bringing him in, I know guys are young guys and they make bad decisions, but we need good people in the building. Everybody's going to make a bad decision and make a mistake, but we got to have good hearts. Like, do they really care about their teammates? And then do they love football? Because man, you played. This is hard. I mean, it's a full-time job between going to school and playing. And I'll tell you, everybody talks about this being more like professional because these guys are getting paid. There's no optional classes at Texas Tech. I'm going to know within 5 to 15 minutes that you're late to class, and at 5:30 the next morning, you're going to have a reminder that, hey, men are on time and do what they say they're do. And so that's why we've had a 3.0 or better in the last 3 semesters as a team, because we go to class.
I love that. No optional classes at Texas Tech. That's big time. That's big time.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for myself, class was sometimes optional in my undergrad days at Cornell, but that's neither here nor there. I'm glad that we didn't cross paths during my undergrad time. But Coach, you mentioned recruiting the high school level and recruiting the state of Texas. A guy from Texas who went berserk is Will Hammond. Bear Morton goes down, Will Hammond steps in, and he did not flinch. Is that just kind of how he operates? Is that just his persona? Like, walk me through that whole Will Hammond experience, if you will.
Well, one, I'm glad that BYU and Utah didn't recruit him the way they should have, because his family's from Utah, and his parents went to BYU, and he had like 40 something family members there at the game. They got to watch him play, but that's who he is, man. He's a guy, really strong faith. He's very, very intelligent. And the thing that really helped us, Barron didn't go through spring because he was coming off his shoulder surgery. So Will is taking every single rep in spring with the one. So every receiver, every running back, that offensive line, they were ready to go. Nobody panicked whenever he came in because they have so much faith in Will and the way he operates. He's a really unique person because he's kind of one of those guys that people gravitate to, and he's different. And his differences make him who he is, and people really respect that.
I mean, it was cool to see. Again, just seemed like he was out there playing pickup football. Like, it was. I mean, I felt chill watching him play.
Yeah,
it was unbelievable. Was there a conversation you had with him before he took the field, or was there anything going on in the headset prior to him going into the game?
Now, Mac talked to him, our OC. I mean, I'm in there in the huddle, but I didn't. I mean, really, whenever Barron went out, I was like, Will's going to go in and perform. I had no, like, there was no nervousness, whatsoever. I do think that the guys really rallied around him. I mean, it's really cool. I didn't notice it in the game, but I watched the TV copy, and Sheridan Wilson's kind of, punching him in the chest, saying, let's go. They're both getting hyped up, and that says a lot about the team. And I think there was a really cool moment that I didn't notice again until you're watching the TV copy, but like one of his touchdowns, Lee Hunter's coming over to him, telling him congrats, our big defensive tackle. So one, that says a lot about Will, but it also says a lot about our team of how much they care about each other.
And when he goes into the game and does what he does, obviously everyone's like, oh, man, Texas Tech's got 2 great quarterbacks. Like, is that something that you're talking about at all internally? Because you got Bear Morton, who's the proven commodity. Will Hammond goes crazy. Like, how do you handle having 2 good options in that quarterback room?
Yeah, well, first, just want to tell everybody he's under a 2-year contract, so you're wasting your time trying to tamper with him. We were smart enough to know that when Barron left, we had our quarterback in waiting and ready to go. He's a redshirt freshman, and so we'll get him for at least 2 to 3 years. If he keeps playing like this, and we'll probably only have him for 2 years, after this. But the thing, I just think Will understands. I mean, you played, so you get this, and a lot of guys in that office that are around you played. Like, there's times in your life, this is your role. You don't have to accept your role from the standpoint of not wanting more, but you do have to accept your role that when it's time for your number to be called, you got to be ready to go. So many people can't do that because they get frustrated because they want so much more and they can't accept their role on the team. So they're not ready when they're called upon. That's the great thing about Will Hammond. He knows exactly who he is. He knows whenever he's called upon, then it's time to go. And then the one thing that we did in game 1, game 2, and game 3 is when he came in the game, no matter what the score was, we ran the offense. It wasn't like, hey, we're going to hand the ball off. It was like, look, there's going to be a point in the season that Will Hammond's got to come in, and it can't be at that point he's running the offense. It's got to be from the get-go. And so if you go back to week 1, 2, and 3, when he came in, it was hammered down, man. He was throwing the ball around. He was running. He was doing everything he could to get in the end zone.
I think that was the other thing that stood out. Like you just mentioned, you're watching this guy go into the game, and it's just like, no, we're rocket launching. Like we're running the same exact system. It was cool to see. Doesn't hurt though when the defense plays the level they do. Obviously against Utah, it was. I know you take through University, and it was true to its name in that game against Utah. When did you know this front seven, especially, was going to be the unit that has been to this point in the year, just essentially dominant?
Yeah, I think we're pretty good up front in the O-line. And during spring football, there were times that there were guys on the D-line we just couldn't block, And we work with a group, and they're like, hey, don't panic because you can't block some of these guys because it's going to be hard for anybody to block them, And so continue to build your offense and don't try to do something different in your offense just to have success against your own self or your defense, And I thought Mac did a good job of just continuing to install and get better on offense. So I thought really early, but it's also you got a bunch of vets, and so when they walk into Jones AT&T Stadium or when they went into Utah, they go up another level. They can really, they practice really hard, but they have more. And I don't think we've come close to playing to the level that we can play. And that's not just me saying it as a coach. Our players, like Cole Wisniewski the other day, our safety, he said, he goes, Coach, we got so much more. We haven't even come close to how hard we can play. And so I think that's a lot of fun. I'll tell you, you said take 3 University, and you talked about Garrett earlier. Garrett was, we were in our team meeting, and he walked out. And as he's walking out, the first 2 weeks, I think we caused 2 turnovers each game. And so he goes, I guess we're take 2. And he was, poking at the defense. And so he kind of pissed him off a little bit. So we took 4. So it's all equaling out, to get to that take 3.
So Garrett is essentially responsible in some way, shape, or form to the turnover production we're getting right now in Lubbock. That's huge.
Yeah, no doubt.
That's huge.
No
That's
doubt.
Awesome. Well, Coach, I got to ask you this too, because now all the success y'all are having, I know everyone's going to be talking about Texas Tech, and there's all the outside noise building. For you, I'm sure this is probably where you expect to be, being the head coach of Texas Tech and what you've built there, but how do you keep all of the process and all of the internal stuff that you've built right now churning at the level that it's gotten to where y'all are right now?
Yeah, we started Sunday talking about handling success. We had a meeting yesterday before practice about handling success. We'll do the same thing today. But if you remember when we were at Baylor, we had all the 1-0 deals up all over the building, and it was the logo of who we were playing. Well, right now, if you come in our building, it says 1-0, and right next to 1-0, it says us. We talk all the time about if we're the best version of ourselves, we're going to be hard to beat. And so we have to focus on an opponent because we've got a game plan for them, and we know that's, who we're playing. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who we're playing if we're playing up to our standard. And so they will hear that constantly. And at any point I feel any, where we're getting complacent, then, we just rev it up. My strength staff and I just rev it up and start trying to push as many buttons as we can to piss some people off to get them going.
I love that. I'm sure there's no issue doing that. You mentioned the Baylor staff. Do you keep up with Coach Rule at all during the year?
Yeah, we usually we were texting this morning, and we usually at least once, but usually 2 or 3 times a week, we'll either text, or we'll get on the phone. Anytime I have questions or if there's 2 guys that I call, Jeff Traylor at UTSA and Matt Rule at Nebraska. Those are my 2 go-to guys that I trust the most. And, Coach Rule's phenomenal whenever you come to, creating culture and pushing the right buttons. So I always, call him whenever I need some help.
Yeah, you mentioned Coach Traylor and Coach Rule. Not some bad guys to have on speed dial. Well, Coach, last question. We appreciate all your time. I mentioned the background work I did before this conversation. I was told to ask about a potential trip to Italy happening or not happening. Is that still on the docket for the not too distant future?
We got to win the Big 12, man. It's Big 12 or bust. I cannot take a lot of time off. I get, like we went to Hawaii and we went for 7 days, and about day 5, I was twitching, man. I was like, man, I got to get back. And 7 days is not enough to do Italy. And so my wife, of course, she wants to go so bad, and she goes, we really need 10 days at least. And I was like, I don't have 10 days in me. I said, I'll tell you what, if we win the Big 12, then I'll take that time off. And so we got to win the Big 12. So she's always invested, but she's really invested in this year because she wants to go to Italy. We'll see if we can make it happen.
Let's go. Well, we're pulling for the trip to Italy here to become a reality. But again, thanks for all the time you took with us today, and excited to watch all the rest of the way here, Coach. Thanks again.
You bet, man. I'm proud of you. Love you, brother.